The Air Force insists it treats serious reports seriously. Chief Scientific Consultant of Project Blue Book is Professor J. Allen Hynek, head of the Dearborn Observatory at Northwestern University. He took on the assignment 18 years ago. He talked with Joseph Wershba of CBS Reports.
Is it in the realm of possibility that there are spaceships someplace in this universe?
Well, if you put it in the word, use the word possibility and not probability, then I would have to say, I think as any scientist would have to say, it is certainly possible, yes. But I think we must always distinguish between the two terms possible and probable. A thing may be scientifically possible, but the probability of its occurring may be extremely small, you see. To this time, there is no proof that I would consider valid scientific proof that we have been visited by spaceships.
3 very mysterious shiny lights have police and residents puzzled.
This pilot who flew Barack Obama says UFOs are real and he's seen one firsthand.
The triangular-shaped flashing object appears to be floating above the capital city.
So this large disc,
oh yeah,
massive, it was following you.
It was pacing us. Here's this giant red ball just above the clouds.
Unbelievable.
Oh, it was.
4 different species, at least, had been visiting this planet for thousands of years.
What do you think the UFO phenomenon is?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, that there are a lot of different varieties of it. But when we look at, like we were looking at the Francis of Assisi and the kind of historical things and the abductions and things like that, I think that it's been around for a long time, and that these are things that are in communication with us.
Whoa. We're looking at this, and it is incredible footage. There's some ball lightning going on here, Brent. Look at this thing dance.
Yeah, this thing struck. It's really good footage. We got this plasmic phenomenon happening in front of the camera as it darts from right to left and has this created this electrical charge that created this static ball of electricity. This is amazing. If it's real, we're looking at something special.
Apparent NASA footage from Area 51 leaked. We're looking at this right now.
All those drinks out.
Well, I hope we didn't just bust everybody's home stereo system, but here we go again.
All those drinks out.
Okay, a little slow motion here. One more time. That's an interesting lightning bolt. This one seems that, again, it's this pillar of light kind of phenomenon. When you see lightning, usually it's very, very fractal. This one's a straight beam of light. That's very weird to me, Brian.
When I got this video earlier, somebody pointed out like they could see a UFO within the middle of the strike. And we're going to get a good close-up here, and I got an opinion about that. There it is. It's a good shot, but I'm thinking it's just a point of light, a street light back in the background that was in a perfect situation to be in the pillar of light, lead people to think that there might be a craft in there. I'm not sure, but again, good phenomenon, what we're looking at here. This would be seen by thousands of people that would break the net. We're looking at something that is captured by one person at the moment.
I'm not exactly sure. Hopefully we could find out more, but whatever it is, it's not CGI. This is captured within the camera optic situation, whatever camera is filmed in. It's very practical. So that's very interesting to me. Now, more videos into Third Phase Moon. Let's pull up the next one, guys. Thumbs up for this breaking news as it comes in.
What do you think the physical objects are?
Well, okay, so this is something that's very interesting. We just looked at the Shroud of Turin. I believe that there are these, I would call them, and this is just my own non-scientific term, interdimensional objects. They're objects that have characteristics of our dimension and some other dimension.
So some other dimension has the capability, or something from some other dimension has the capability of transporting a physical object into our realm.
Or even imprinting onto a physical object. Yeah.
How so?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think
What
that's
do you mean by, what does that mean, imprinting onto
So
a
with the
physical
Shroud
object?
of Turin,
Okay.
we see the imprint of, the image and...
If it's real.
Yeah, if it's real. But it's an anomalous object. So we do have, from Gary Nolan, engineered objects that we don't know how they're engineered, but they definitely look like they're, it's off-planet. I would call the kinds of things that we see in the historical record interdimensional types of things.
Code Indigo Delta Echo Niner. I'm a confirmed fallen angel in Sector 87. Mobilize Operation Falcon immediately.
This is David Brinkley in the radar room at Washington National Airport. On these radar screens last Saturday, they saw something strange and unusual and at the moment unexplainable. It was not an airplane. It was not a cloud. Nobody knows what it was.
Oh, yes, we discussed it at every conference that we had with the military, and they never were able to make me a concrete report on it. There's always things like that going on, flying saucers.
Are we looking at what Corbell just dropped a few days ago? It's making the world news, but again, we're looking at the phenomenon closely, and what's incredible is the incredible nature of the phenomenon being captured by people from around the world. Maybe the same weather phenomenon during the night. We shared this with you about a year or so ago, but I think it's important that we bring this side-by-side comparison, this crazy black hole at night causing traffic to basically almost stop right there in the middle of traffic. People are pressing their brakes because they're looking at something that they can't explain. Brett, what are we looking at? Is this the same phenomenon that we just shared moments ago in the daytime via the nighttime?
Yeah, it's a big question right there. Again, we're looking at this massive blackness surrounded by this light ring, and you can see it suspended in the sky. If this is real, legit, we're looking at a really special weather phenomenon, maybe something extraterrestrial or man-made, some new projects that we're not familiar with. Going back to what happened in Japan just today, looking at this weather phenomenon. Again, this guy was driving on the side of the road, got a really good close-up. Again, I'm leaning more towards this as natural. We see punch clouds and we see that, but again, looking at that other footage just moments ago at the nighttime, maybe it could create this kind of illusion in both scapes.
Now, how? I don't know, Joe. Okay, so I just don't know, but I do think that scientists in the government know that these things exist and they would like to figure it out. And so part of disclosure, the disclosure movement, is outsourcing this and trying to get as many people as possible to help in figuring it out.
What do you think when they use the term donations? What do you think the purpose of that is? If there is an object that is purposely released into our, like I'm sure you're aware of cargo cults, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So with cargo cults, for people that don't know, there's been some islands during World War I and World War II where planes landed there and they left, and these people, they created these statues of these planes and they worshiped them. And they wanted them to come back. Yes.
Yeah, because they got food and all kinds of wonderful things from the planes.
Right. And
yeah. They thought of them as deities.
Right. The same way we would think of something from
like
somewhere
this.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that in my field has been called the cargo cult the UFO cargo cult, right? And obviously, Tyler and James view these parts as donate. They called it the donation site, right? So giving it the idea
Is that just one theory?
Yeah, that's just one theory.
Are there other theories that there's a biological organism that encounters a lightning storm and it actually crashes and there's physical bodies?
Oh yeah,
that
there is that. Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Going
What's your
around.
take on that? Because that's one of the things that Grush talked about and some of the other people talked about, that there are biological things that have been recovered.
Well, what impressed me about what he said was that he used the term biologics. And I actually know that term because that's the same term that Tyler was talking about when he was creating materials in anti-gravity spaces on space shuttles and such. So I was wondering, because David Grush does get his information from people allegedly in the programs, but he's never seen these materials that I know of.
I think he has some firsthand experience that he was not able to talk about.
Okay.
That he's alluding to.
Okay.
I think, but this is recent, and he's been very careful about how he releases this information and what he's able to release and not able to release. And that I was like, okay,
yeah.
Really?
So I mean, I've not seen any bodies, nor have I seen intact craft, but I also have had. Now, remember, I don't have a clearance like he has, so I can actually talk about what people have told me. I have had people tell me that, yes, Diana, there are intact craft. I don't know. I mean, maybe. So, I don't know, Joe.
Have you studied Bob Lazar?
Okay, yes. I am always asked about Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I can tell you that people that I've met who are associated with the programs tell me that he's right. Now I know his background and I know, all the things. I don't have an opinion one way or the other, but I can also say that a lot of times people with very disturbing backgrounds, who could be easily discredited are given information and shown things and told things.
Well, I would think that that's sort of like a little escape clause.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is.
I mean, the guy's obviously a genius and was obviously a propulsion expert. He put a fucking jet engine on a Honda in like the 1980s. He's a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
And, he claims that there's some element that exists in other places in the universe, which leads me to believe not even to believe, but so here's the question. Are some of these things from other planets? Is that also in the equation? I mean, just because something is traveling interdimensionally, we do know that there are an infinite number of planets in the universe. I mean, we have no idea how many of them are capable of supporting human-like life or some other kind of life, or an infinite number of varieties of life. And if that life can do what we've done and get to some part of its progression where it's capable of creating what we're calling artificial intelligence or super advanced technology, why wouldn't it come here?
Yes. I'm not discounting ET.
So that could be there too.
I think so, especially because of the ways in which the materials are being manufactured off planet, like the ones that we just saw. And that was information when I met Tyler 2014, and now it's a full-on thing that's happening, right? So it's a supercharged program of creating things that will help us off planet. I mean, certainly then, yeah, I think so. I mean, but I don't know.
Right.
So I have to just be honest.
So it might be a bunch of different things happening all at the same time, interdimensionally, extraterrestrially, something from a distant galaxy that's figured out some new method of propulsion that's beyond our imagination that can visit, and then also things that are coming here from other dimensions.
Yes. And even recently somebody had, I can't say anything. I can't say I'm sorry. I don't want to be that person that goes on your show and says, "Oh, okay. I can't say that." I probably. Most likely, there are if there's crash retrieval part, crash retrievals here on Earth, perhaps there are in space as well.
Do you, when they talk about inventions that emerged post-Roswell, that's one of the points of speculation, is that we have back-engineered something, and that this led to the creation of fiber optics and a lot of other technologies that seem to emerge after that time.
Unconfirmed video from an unknown location of what looks to be some kind of triangular craft rotating stationary in the sky. You hear the dogs react. Are we looking at something legitimate? In my opinion, the video seems to match up in all indications. We're looking at something that is actually up in the sky. The question is, Brent, what is going on here?
Yep, the TR-3B kind of makes its rounds around the planet. They've been seeing it everywhere, and we're seeing it in another country right now. Jaime Maussan just put this up. He wanted it to be shared around the world, and he gave us permission. We're looking at something. I like the camera pullback right there. It pulls, it shows that distance, and then he zooms in. This is not easy for CGI artists to pull this off. We're looking at this apparent triangular craft rotating there. Very cool, as we see birds and maybe insects fly in front of the camera, which in my opinion at least gives a nice look of it being real. Could this been put in by CGI? It's a possibility. Could this be all manipulated? Possibility. But we're looking at something, in my opinion, still needs to be referenced and have a more acute eye at it. Are we looking at something legit?
Yeah. So this question was prominent in my mind in 2012 when I met Jacqu Val. So I was already aware of his work, even as a person who hadn't studied UFOs or even believed in them. Jacqu Val is just one of these people, right, that you come across his work and he's fascinating. So I thought it was strange that not only was he a person who was, pre-engineered ARPANET, right? He was on ARPANET, which is pre-internet. He was creating that at the same time as being obsessed with UFOs and doing, being a ufologist. These things seemed that they had to be together, right? There was something that, what's going on here? So, and I'm in touch with him often. And he says a lot of things that are rather cryptic, but sometimes I ask him specifically, was what you were doing on ARPANET related to back-engineered UFO parts? And then he'd say something like, there are many secrets in Silicon Valley. Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's real cryptic. He's kind of difficult to have a conversation with publicly.
Well, it does have a lot. I guess there are lots of secrets in Silicon Valley.
Of course.
Which is where he lives.
Yeah. Another thing that was really fascinating about your book was you were talking about how much religion he studied.
Yes. That was really interesting. So in the book, what I do is I uncover not just him, but Allen Hynek. They were friends. And they were both Rosicrucians, which is a form of, he might not like me to say this, but it's a form of mystical Christianity in a sense. But a lot of Rosicrucians don't view their roots as Christian. They look at it as Egyptian. But it's basically, it's an esoteric tradition. And it involves meditation. I think it most likely involves this thing that you and I have been discussing in the whole talk so far is the pineal gland thing, the access point, because both of them believe in this kind of life, this meditating and things like that. And so I included references. Everything I say in my books, by the way, I pass to the person that I'm writing a chapter about. So everything that I said about Jacques, I gave it to him beforehand, and I said, are you okay with me saying this publicly? And so it passed all the tests. And I also talk about going to his apartment and seeing his library, which is an amazing library. And he had a lot of books on angels and fallen angels in that library, like almost like it was almost like going into the Vatican archive, going into this place, because these looked like first editions or close. So, really, really old books about this topic.
Fallen angel.
Yeah. I was pretty shocked when I went. We were going to have lunch and talk about the crash site and maybe talk about, what I learned from Tyler and that kind of thing. And we went to lunch, and then he said, "Do you want to see the library?" And I was like, "Yes, of course." So I saw the handwritten documents from Project Blue Book, and that was just going into the library. That wasn't actually in the library. Then when we got in there, I noticed big bookcases of these books, and of course I was drawn to them. And he said he picked out one and he opened it, and it was about angels, and he said, this is a book about angels. And I could see that, and I was looking at it, I was like, wow. And then I looked at the other bookshelf, and that bookshelf was just as impressive. And then it was about fallen angels. He said, "Oh, this one's about fallen angels." And then he made a joke, and he said, "You can't have one without the other." And I thought that was really interesting.
That does seem to align with what we're talking about, with like the struggle of good and evil.
It does. That's what he said too. And I was actually shocked at that point. I was like, wow. So just, I'm a professor of religion, so I'm like, I'm right about, my intuition was somehow confirmed.